morning, folks. Welcome back to Threes In again. So, earlier I was talking about Kangaroo 81, about an exercise held out in Australia in November 1981. And I mentioned that I'd flown the Mirage a few times during that exercise. So I pulled out my logbook. Let's see, turn it that way up. I got to look at this thing and turn it the opposite direction, and I think I need to turn it. Okay. Anyway, I looked in my logbook, and as it turns out, I'd flown the Mirage 11 times over the 2 years I was stationed in Australia. Now, the Australian Air Force was nowhere near as tight about things as the United States Air Force is. They had the attitude that we might have seen here in the United States, say around late 50s, early 60s, maybe even up into early 70s, where if you were qualified or somewhat qualified, you wanted to go for a ride, they'd take you. It wasn't a big deal. I loved that attitude. I was not on flying status for those 2 years, but I flew almost everything they had in their inventory, with the exception of the P3. I didn't fly that. There might have been something else. There's 707. I didn't fly that. But almost everything else, the Mirage, the F-111C, the Caribou, and Air Macchi, and the C-7. I flew that too. It was all a lot of fun. Okay, back to the Mirage. I did get 11 sorties in it, all in the dual. Of course, I didn't have a course in solo, and that's just the way it is. At any rate, a couple of things that stand out to me about flying that airplane was, first of all, the cockpit was very tight. It was, I imagine it's very close to the cockpit of an A4. The other thing was they had a Martin Baker seat in it, so it took a little bit of time to get acclimated to strap in, but once you did, it was fine. The other thing was the fuel system. The fuel system in the Mirage III used a system of how much fuel you were shown, how much fuel you used, not how much you had remaining. Now, the other thing that was a real crowd pleaser, at least to me, was it was measured in liters. God, I just don't want to be flying and have to go through advanced math while I'm flying along. I like to look down and say, okay, you got 600 pounds of gas remaining. Better get this bad boy on the ground. That sort of thing. To tell me how many liters I had used doesn't tell me how much time I have left. And I don't want to spend that time I do have left doing advanced math. I was always not too bad at math. It's arithmetic that tore me up. Okay, be that as it may. My problem. The other thing that was fascinating about the Mirage, and I think I've mentioned this in an earlier video, but since I'm on the topic, the afterburner system, what you had to do on that is you had to take the throttle and go outboard, and when you went outboard, you got a yellow injection light, and it's telling you that there were a lot of magic things going on behind you back in the motor, and getting everything aligned and so forth, and everything ready for afterburner ignition. Once everything was all set, the yellow light went out, and then you could go forward, and you get a red light telling you were in afterburner. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't like having red lights in the cockpit. It's just something that kind of disturbs me about that. But that's just the way it was. That's the way they were acclimated, so be that as it may, it worked fine for them. But I never felt comfortable when we were in AB, seeing that red light there. They told a story of a Pakistani pilot in a Mirage III that was fighting a MiG pilot from India during one of their wars they had. And the guy had been jumped by a MiG, and he was about to get hammered. And somebody looked out and saw it and was telling him, hey, go into burn. And the kid came back and says, I'm waiting for the yellow light to go out. It was taking a little bit longer than normal. I'm here to tell you, if I had a MiG on my ass, I'm not going to be sitting there staring at that yellow light wondering if that's going to go out or not. Boom, and go for it. But anyway, this poor kid was sitting there watching the light show. Okay. The other thing that was an anomaly about the Mirage III was the gear retraction system of the main gear. When the main gear as it started up, it rotated inward like so. And then so it comes up and then it rotates and then it folds at an angle like that into the belly. That was something to behold. It worked for them. I guess that's the only way they could get the main gear to fit with everything else. But it was really, to see that monkey motion in that gear was something to watch when you're standing on the ground watching. Of course, when you're airplane, you can't see it. I get that. A lot of these things that were perplexing to me about flying in the Mirage became very clear years and years later when I was going through Airbus training at Northwest, when one of our classmates asked the instructor about some system, this, that, or another on the Airbus. The instructor hesitated for a moment, looked out over the class, and he's French. That was the answer and the explanation. And then I reflected back to all the things that I thought were anomalies in the Mirage III, and it all came together and made sense. God bless them. Anyway, they also have helicopter blades that rotate the other way around, in case you didn't know that. Okay, that being said, it's always fun to go through this logbook on occasion and see things that I stuck in here about various things. I have a cartoon that I clipped out. Here, I'll show it to you. Hope this thing comes across. And what it says is, what creatures are found in Australia that are found nowhere else on Earth? And the answer is Australians. That just cracked me up. That came from an Australian newspaper, by the way. So, a couple little comments on flying down in the RAF. I really enjoyed that tour, and they were very gracious and very welcoming to us, the exchange officers. Oh, I'll tell you this last little bit and then move on. A friend of mine from Vance, Dave Huber, got assigned to Perth, flying the Aero Mackie in their training command. So he comes in to Canberra to meet with Colonel Taft, the senior military officer, the military air attaché in Canberra. So he met with him 3 days and got his marching orders. Then he hopped on a Australian airplane and flew out to Perth. Perth is on the other side of the continent. Anyway, he gets out there, and as they begin their descent, the captain of the airline comes on and says, "Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to direct your attention to outside the left and right wings. You'll see 3 of our training aircraft on each wing, Aero Mackies." He said, "We have a brand new exchange officer on board, and it's the squadron's way of welcoming them to Australia and to the base." And they had the squadron had launched 6 airplanes, and they put 3 on each wing, escorting them down into the Perth airport. The Aussies did things like that and didn't think anything about it. I doubt if they do today, but back then it was kind of neat. Dave was telling me that was so cool to have an escort coming into land. At that time, most of the airline pilots were former Royal Australian Air Force pilots, so it was easy for them to set up and brief and so forth. Just shows you a little bit different attitude toward things. That was in 1980, 81, 82. And that was one of the things with my old soul that I really enjoyed being part of, was the Royal Australian Air Force at the time. And Australia in nature was like what I envisioned America was in the 60s and the early 70s. And it was just so much more relaxed and a lot of fun. At any rate, that's a little bit from down under, about down under this morning. This is Bobo, Base Gear. Stop. G'day, mate.